and thank you so much again for being here. What a great opportunity we have here of a Northville duo, mother and daughter duo here, who collaborated on an extraordinary book, The Acorn and the Oak. And it's such a pleasure to have them here in the original watercolor illustrations for the book and the author here with us. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Jessica Waterstradt and Rhonda Accardo. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. We'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening, and for Ryan and everybody that works with the Art House for having us. It's taken a lot of patience on their part, but they've been wonderful. Go ahead.
So those of you who don't know, several years ago, my mom and I would do our own craft in our own places, and she would be writing and I would be arting, and I had kept nudging her, we should do a book, we should do a book. We should collab in some way. Because it's kind of a shame to have an artist and an author under the same roof and not have anything to show for it. That kind of stemmed this project that you are now looking at that has been in the making for several years now. And the story is actually about, it's very interlinked with family. And the little girl in the book symbolizes my mother. And the mom in the book actually symbolizes her mother, my grandma, who is here with us today from Indiana. And my mom can share a little bit about what the book is about.
So the story came about, it was actually written for my aunt's funeral. When she was 42 years old, she lost her husband to an aneurysm, and she went on to lose 4 of her 6 children. She was this amazing, strong, beautiful woman, who even at the age of 93, when her health started to fail and her kids asked her what her wishes were, she still wanted to live. She just found purpose in life and still saw the beauty in it. And that's really, I remember my mom telling me one time, it's not a book about loss, it's still about finding the beauty in life and after you lose somebody. So the 2 children that are left, one of the sons had messaged me the night before the funeral. I realized they live 8 hours from here, and I remember that I'm at work at 8:30 at night, and he says, can you write something for the funeral? And so I write the story of the acorn and the oak. So from there, when we decided to turn it into a children's book, Jessica told me, sit down and tell me what you want me to draw, what your ideas for the book are. And I said, no, I want you to listen to the story and draw what you see. And I can't tell anybody enough, if you're not into the art world, how important your artist is. Because the story, even though people love the story, it's the illustrations that cause somebody to pick a book up in the first place. And and I want to jump back really quick. We feel so lucky that it's this weekend, that it's Mother's Day weekend, because the book's done by a mother and daughter. It's a story of me and my mom and the love of an old oak tree. The first pictures start off, well, before I go there, I'm trying to think but the first pictures have to do with being on a farm, and I was raised on a farm. And there was a dirt road that went to the woods, and there was always full of tadpoles and stuff. So Jessica captured that into the pictures. And there was, there's all kinds of meaning hid throughout several of the pictures. One of them is my nephew passed away with cancer when he was 21. And so when he was a little boy, my mom and him were sitting out on a 4th of July night looking at fireworks. And there was a huge, beautiful moon in the sky. And he told my mom, he said, when you die, will you wait for me on the moon until I get there? And my mom told him yes. So at 20, when he was diagnosed with cancer, and then he went hospice, my mom asked if he remembered their pact. And he said no, but he would honor it. But this time he'd wait for her till she gets there. So in every one of our books, Jessica, that we do together, we decided to hide a moon somewhere throughout the picture. So if you look at the pictures, you'll see a little crescent moon hidden in there. Jessica took an entire year looking for the perfect tree to motivate you to, yes. And it was actually one of the the little blonde boy in the back of the book, you can see the real family's pictures in the back of the book. And he then found a tree. So if you're waiting for a tree, I can show you a tree. We got on 4-wheelers, we went through the woods, across river bottoms, and he showed us this tree. It's 27 feet around. The largest bur oak, they think, in Indiana is 24 feet, so it might be one of the biggest trees in Indiana. And so from there, Jessica drew that tree. The crazy thing is, the day before that, and that was just right at a year when that happened, I had pulled into a parking lot at Barnes & Noble and sat there and cried and thought, our book is never gonna happen. She's taken a year to do it, I'm working a ton, we're never gonna get to it. And I stopped crying, I opened the car door to get out. In the middle of that parking lot, without an oak tree in sight, was the littlest acorn laying there. So I knew then that our book was meant to be. But there's all kinds of special meaning hid throughout the picture. I cannot tell you how much I love the arts and what illustrators do, and I know you guys don't get paid enough, and being part of the children's book community now, I see all kinds of people saying, I need an illustrator, but I need somebody for this amount of money, and they don't realize if, you know, our book would not sell if it wasn't for the illustration. So hats off to you guys. I'm so excited to have a daughter that does the art, and there's tons more stories I can tell you about hidden meanings, but I'll leave it there. I'll never stop talking. So, but thank you so much for coming. And my mom. But.
So you'll hear this a lot, and as an artist, I'm sure we've all been there, where you have to, in order to sit down and actually work on a piece, you have to feel it. If there's not that connection with your subject material, there's really nothing. And then it becomes this project that you're just kind of laboring over, and it's not very fruitful. This story, thankfully, was not one of those projects. Like my mom had mentioned, from the very beginning, this has always been a project that was way more than a children's book. We had her story that was just heart pouring out onto a page. And it went beyond our timing, because we were laboring over finding the perfect model of a little girl, which our little girl ended up being this happy, exuberant, bubbly little girl named Charlie, which was so much fun to put her personality onto the page. The mom, who we ended up finding, and then the tree, who we waited a year to find this tree. We were oak hunting, and we would get in our cars and drive all over, and going to Kensington Park, going just along the sides of the roads where a lot of the most beautiful trees are kind of just lost against.
You're an artist, just make up a tree.
Yeah.
But being able to find that connection with your material, with what there's something that opens up as an artist. It's not just color and mark and form on a page. You are pouring who you are into that. And that is what the people who are looking at your art, that's what they pick up. They pick up the subject material. They pick up the love that each of the characters had in real life in that tree, and the importance of that tree, and especially the importance of that tree to this family. To have one of the remaining family members find this tree in the perfect timing, where these acorns fill the palm of your hand. They're called bur oak. It was just incredible. Going a little, into the process of these illustrations, another thing that prolonged the process was how particular watercolor is. Watercolor is beautiful when it's let loose on the page, but as an artist, as an illustrator, I needed that detail in there. And so when the process of these, in addition to finding the perfect models, we're making sure the perfect mark was on the page. With perfection comes time and frustration. But I would draw these entire illustrations out on a separate sheet of paper. And when I came to transfer them, I would take the tracing paper over top, go over the lines until I was finished, flip the tracing paper over, draw with graphite, a dark graphite on the back, and then again, take the tracing paper onto the watercolor paper. I couldn't just go like this with the graphite, because then all of the mark would have been transferred onto the paper, which muddies the watercolor. So for a fourth time, I would go over the lines and meticulously make sure that my mark, what I wanted to carry through in each of these illustrations, was transferred on. So for the 5th time, I would go over, once I pulled the tracing paper off the transfer paper, I would go over and craft what I wanted my final to look like. With watercolor, there's no fixing mistakes. What is on the paper in pencil, that is your final. With oil or acrylic, you can go over and you can rework it. That's not what these were. So a lot of these, you'll see mistakes, but it was just the process and the progress that, you know, my mom and I just definitely labored over. But it was that feeling that we were chasing after, is to invite each and every one of you into our story, into the story of the characters and the real life people that were standing behind the illustrations of this book. And so it is our hope that we did that successfully for each and every one of you, and that you would be able to connect with the book and the message behind the book when you read it.
And I think one of the other things is that people, at the same time seeing our story in it, but being able to say, this is my story. And that's what's been really cool, is everybody being able to identify it. So, but thank you so much for coming. And I will say, everybody keeps saying it must be so wonderful to work with your mom and daughter. We were so stinking close, but when we started doing this book, if we'd been married, we'd been divorced. Really, because we're like, just get it done already, you know. And at the very last minute, she had money to add one more tree or something. But anyhow, we did it, and it's like, we're excited. So, but thank you.
I hope you enjoy it.
Right.